This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Brown and Michael Yu.
Welcome to the Oakwyn Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Yu.
I'm Morgan Brown.
And we have a special guest today, Denny Dumas.
Dumas!
Hello. Hey, welcome.
Let's
Denny.
go.
I've been looking forward to that for a couple of days. I've listened to a handful of your guys' podcasts.
Oh, really?
How you
And
just
the
chat?
intros are so excitable.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really excited. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, that was my big wrestler. Like if I was a wrestler to announce someone, that's how I would do it.
That's true.
Yeah. If you had a wrestling entrance theme, we're both big wrestling fans.
Yeah. I'm like a triple X. Like, let's go. Jump.
You just like doing that. Yeah. What would be
Yes,
your-
we're the owners of Oakwood Realty. That is who.
Right. Danny, what would be your wrestling entrance theme?
Yes.
Man, you guys have way more energy. Naturally, I'm quite a conservative, calm person.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think it would be like some country music.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just
country.
walking and chill.
Yeah.
You know what? I know somebody that just picked up some cowboy boots. His name is the Podfather.
Oh,
Recently,
really? You got cowboy boots?
yes, he just bought them.
Okay.
And do you have cowboy boots?
No cowboy boots, been to dozens of country concerts.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
But I just wear my backwards hat and like Eric Church.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Eric Church.
Okay.
Oh, okay, honestly.
Is he like more like slow? Eric Church, is he more slower? Like slow? Like is it more bluesy? Is it?
Definitely
Yeah.
more bluesy.
Bluesy.
Oh, okay.
I like the guys that wear baseball hats.
Oh, okay.
That's my style.
Yeah, okay.
My sisters came from Calgary, and like they were really into country music. But like I was in the car with them, they would listen to like JRFM and listen to like Garth Brooks. So I know all the Garth Brooks things.
That's that era.
Yeah.
Garth
You listen to Garth Brooks?
It's a little before my time.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Exactly.
Woo!
He changed it. He has an alter ego though.
Does he?
This is
I
like
don't know.
this is
I don't
insider
know.
Garth Brooks here.
Okay. Okay,
But
I
anyways,
like it.
let's not talk about Garth
Okay.
Brooks. Let's talk about Denny Dumas. Denny,
Yes.
why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Man, where to begin?
Yeah.
My life revolved around sports for the first 20 years.
Mm.
And after college, I went to college for a couple of years, went to the States for 1 year, and then to UBC. Kind of fell out of love with the game of basketball, mostly because I started working and fell in love with making money.
Okay.
Mm.
So my second year of university was at UBC playing basketball, taking 5 classes, and working 4 nights a week.
Gee.
So it's pretty hectic and wild. And I just realized, 1, I wasn't going to make the MBA. 2, I liked making money more than going to school. So I stopped going to school and stopped playing basketball and started making money.
Oh wow.
So I was bartending. My dad ran sports bars and liquor stores in Greater Vancouver. So that was kind of my upbringing. Even as like a 10,
Kid.
11, 12-year-old, I would go with him in the mornings at 4:30 a.m. and count cash and pull tabs and stuff like that.
Oh
Oh
wow.
my God, pool tabs. I love pool tabs.
Oh yeah. Obsession with pull
I
tabs.
love pool tabs. Okay.
So it started early. And then as soon as I turned 19, I started bartending. And that was as I was playing basketball at university. So it was
Wow.
pretty hectic and wild. Real estate came
Whoa.
a little bit later. I know there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
This is a big one.
Where to begin? So I bartended and managed sports bars for 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it wasn't an industry that I wanted to stay in long term. It just wasn't my thing. Margins are very small. It is a really, really, really difficult industry
Mhm.
Right.
to make any money in.
Food and beverage. Yeah.
It's so difficult. And so it's not something that I wanted to be in long term. Like, I had a unique experience of being able to see the back end of the restaurant industry
Mhm.
through him and through managing and hiring and all of that kind of stuff and
Right.
food costs. And it's very challenging. So 5 or 6 years in, I decided to just like pull the Band-Aid off and move on.
Mm.
Got a job in banking. And I was
Okay.
listening to Pino's podcast
Oh my
a few
gosh.
days ago.
I say that.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
hearing the teller story, I'm like, man, I remember
So you were a
that all
teller
too
too.
for a very brief period of time.
Okay.
I had this idea that I wanted to work in finance. I didn't really know why or if I'd be any good at it or
Right.
if I'd even like it, but I wanted to give it a shot. So with any financial career, seems like you got to work your way up. And
Right.
the start was as a teller. That
Mhm.
lasted 4 or 5 months because I hated every day of it. And I bought my first condo when I was 21,
Okay.
and I had been connected to Jamie
right.
when I was 21, and he helped me
What?
buy the condo. So we went to the same high school.
Oh, wow.
He was I believe 6 years older than me. So I didn't really know him in high school, but got connected to him
Who
through
is
a friend
Jamie
of a
for
friend.
people that do not know?
The infamous James Garbett.
Yes.
James Garbett is my business partner in real estate. He owns a brewery in New West. Very entrepreneurial dude. Very adventurous dude.
Yes,
Mhm.
Ventress.
He's got some run stories. He ran the West Coast Trail in 15 hours. Most people take 6 or 7 days.
Wow.
And he did a 120K trail race in Portugal a couple of years ago. That was a 21-hour trek.
Right.
He likes challenging himself physically and
Yeah.
in business, and I've learned a ton from this guy. So when I hated the banking world,
Mhm.
I just reached out to him after, he helped me with the condo, but this was 4 or 5 years later.
Right.
Said, I'm jumping into real estate. I've thought about real estate for a while. As we were going through the process of looking for a condo a few years previous, I asked a ton of questions, and he mentioned it
Mhm.
multiple times that he's like, you ask a lot of questions. Eh?
Right.
And this obviously continued into real estate, which is why I feel like I progressed pretty quickly. But I just told him I signed up for the course. What do I do now?
Mhm.
So we met for breakfast, and he was at the point in his career, I think, where he was really busy. He had one assistant and just needed some help. So his comment was, follow me around for 6 months. If we work well together, we'll figure it out as we go. If not, you'll learn some stuff and go off on your own.
Mhm.
So that was 9.5 years ago, and we
Oh my goodness.
still together trying to figure it out.
Trying to figure it all out. I think
Wow.
you figured it out. Now, how many people are on your team now?
We now have 6. So
That's
there's
right.
5 realtors, and then our miraculously phenomenal office admin,
Oh my
Rachel.
gosh.
Yeah. Rachel's
Rachel
the
is
best.
like the
Yeah.
best.
She's pretty
If you're listening, which I
fantastic.
hope you are, you're the best.
She organizes all our chaos, and realtors live in a world of chaos.
Yes.
And she is able to bring us back down to reality.
Yeah.
Okay, can we just get back to
Well,
this
yeah.
basketball thing?
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, what position did you play?
I say I like shooting guard better,
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
but I played more point guard because, I'm not short for Canadian standards, but when you go
Yeah.
to the States, you're a very short basketball player, and I'm 6'2"-ish.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Now, did you ever go to Europe and play? You know how like some of them go to Europe
Yeah.
after?
I think
Were
I
you
just
like,
kind of fell out of
Here
love with
or
it.
okay, that's
Yeah.
what happened. Yeah. Yeah.
My brother, I actually have a lucky experience of knowing my brother-in-law played for Team Canada. He went to Europe, played in Europe for 6 or 7 years,
Wow.
played pro
Wow.
in Sweden. He was the very last cut on the Sydney Olympics team. That was the Steve Nash, where I think they finished 3rd or 4th.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
So he's in it.
he was very good. And
Yes.
so I got to hear his experiences and a lot of other guys that I grew up playing with. And the big comment was like, unless you're a superstar and you make the NBA,
Right.
you're not going to make enough money for it to be super worth it.
Mhm.
And enjoyable.
When you come back when
Yeah.
you're 35, you're
Yeah.
starting from scratch with
Yes.
Right.
like a little bit of money in your pocket, but it's not like you're building a big career out of it.
Sure.
And your career is so short-lived. Unless you're like someone in the NBA making
Yeah.
$5 million a year.
Right.
I feel like, we should really start an Oakwyn basketball team and have like a basketball against agencies and then tell our secret weapon that Denny's
Right.
coming.
Yeah.
Be like, oh yeah,
Well,
Denny's coming.
Danny, you love like all sports though, right? You're
Oh,
really-
okay,
yeah.
great.
I have a weirdly
Athlete.
obsessive personality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so as a kid, it was basketball. It was
Mhm.
like most people have think about any business person that has success. There is so much behind the scenes that happens that
Yeah.
they do that no one understands. They just see what's on social media, which
Mhm.
is I sold 100 homes this year.
Right.
That's right.
They don't understand the like countless nights that you're going to bed at 1:30 a.m. finishing paperwork,
Yeah.
scratching your head on why a listing hasn't sold, and hundreds of conversations behind the scenes and all that stuff.
Right.
Basketball was the same for me, and I
Mhm.
was obsessed. And it was every morning I'd be in the gym at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
This is like from grade 9 to 12 probably. It got to the point where I went to a private high school, St. Thomas More.
Mhm.
It was a Christian school, the Christian Brothers, which is like a group of people who kind of devote their lives to education through Christianity.
Right.
They run the school, and a few of them they have a residence in the
Oh,
school.
cool.
Oh, okay.
It got to the point where I was buzzing them so early, they just gave me a key.
Oh, wow.
So from grade 10 to 12, I just had a key to the school that I
Are
could
you
just,
kidding me?
yeah.
So, where did this work ethic come from, Denny? Like, what kind of trauma did you deal with?
Tell us your many traumas that you've had, because we know ours.
Honestly, it's a fair point. And I've done a lot of
Soul searching.
Yeah, thinking about that.
Mhm.
I grew up in a family of 6
Mhm.
kids.
Mhm.
So I was number 5. So I had 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters, and all of them played college sports, which is cool. But naturally, as the younger one, I wanted to beat everyone.
Mhm.
Just because I saw my 2 older brothers who are 10 and 9 years older than me playing what I thought was high level when I'm like 9.
Right.
They're in grade 12.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, these guys are so good. But I wanted to be good.
Yeah.
I think I also got a bit of it from my dad too. He worked really like we kind of started the podcast on.
Yeah.
Working
4:30 in the
in
morning.
pubs and
Yeah.
liquor stores is a really grueling, very difficult business with small margins. And if you're like contracting out everything, if you're having managers for the pubs and all of this, your margin is just getting diminished and diminished.
That's
and
right.
diminished. So
He did a lot of it.
as a sole proprietor, small business owner, he's doing a lot of those tasks. And so I would say a good example from him, but also just like the desire to not lose to my brothers.
Oh my God, I love it. It's a
So you're
competition.
really
He's
competitive.
so competitive. It's but tell me what, like the one thing your dad, like you obviously had 6 siblings. Did
5 siblings, yeah.
5 siblings. Did he put you to work? Like, was he like, were you guys working?
I think at the pubs,
Yeah.
there was always the opportunity to come in the mornings with him. And I just started doing it because I thought it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And even from the early age, like I'd go in for 2 hours and what was minimum wage back then, man? $6 an hour. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd make like $15 or like he'd give me a paycheck every 2 weeks for $42.
Right.
And when I was 11 years old, I thought this was sweet, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think that maybe was the early days of learning that I liked making money.
That's cool. And what's the best thing your dad ever taught you with that? I'm always interested because I feel like everyone's like, what do I teach my kids? Including myself.
It's funny because my dad and I have very different personalities, I think.
Mhm.
But maybe the biggest takeaway from him was humility.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
He is not a very materialistic or boisterous individual. And I always liked that I saw him as being successful, yet no one really knew about it or talked about it.
That's cool. That's a very cool thing to.
So you mentioned that you're different. How are you guys different?
This is
diving in.
how much time do you have?
We got a lot of time, Denny. We're just getting started, man.
We're stirring the pot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. Naturally, he's very conservative. I'd say growing up he was born in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
Just upbringings are so different
Yes,
from
he's like 60.
me growing up in the 90s and early 2000s. The internet was a thing. Facebook, social media was a thing. Personality wise, I'd say I am a little more out there. Like I want to be in front of people more,
Mhm.
whereas he liked being behind the scenes a little more, I'd say.
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot.
That's cool.
Wow. So I think, this kind of start into real estate, Denny, by kind of reaching out to James or Jamie. I think that's a pretty bold move for a lot of people to do that because, Jamie has been and James Garbutt, who's not on the pod today, but Denny's partner, has been a top 1% realtor for a very, very long time. He's very well respected. Just a little bit of backstory and context. The G&D team, the Garbutt Dumas team, is one of the top teams in the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. Super well respected, executes their sales and marketing strategies at a very, very high level. We're so proud to have them with Oakwyn, of course. And, they've built such a wonderful reputation and are really highly respected in our industry. But even just like to start that out, to be like writing your exam and like having the guts to kind of call, like what was that process? Like what was that process in the mind?
What's the worst that could happen?
Ah.
I learn best by like listening and asking questions.
Right.
And even from the beginning, I said this, but as we started working together the first 6 months, I would just sit in the back of his car and he would be on buyer tours.
Who's this guy sitting in the back of the car?
I know the industry has changed so much, but it was so common for my first like 3 years to have 4 or 5 buyer tours a day.
Right.
And I would just like go to the SkyTrain or go to someone's house, pick them up and drive them around and show them 5 or 6 properties and take them back and then go to the next person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen as often anymore anyway, but So with my first 6 months, like before I kind of got a database of my own and got busier with appointments on my own, I would just sit in the back of his car and listen to his conversations with the buyer, seller, whoever he's talking to. And then on the way to the next appointment, I would be like writing down questions and just ask him all these questions. Oh, you presented this information this way. You said this about this condo building. How do you know that about over there? And like, it was so many questions. And I got to the point where he made this comment, and I remember it so clearly. He said something like, I know you're going to be really good at this, but damn, you ask a lot of questions.
But that's good. Like, I think being very curious is what really makes you own your craft even more, you know?
One of the coolest things I remember about those like 6 months sitting in the back of his car, it is a white Toyota Camry.
Awesome.
Was driving around New West, and he's talking to buyers and being like, that's this address, the 2 bedrooms in there, the 04s and the 06s, they're about 850 square feet. Right now they're selling for
X
this
amount.
is 2014. So
Yeah,
they're selling for
yeah.
$412,000. You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
and I remember just sitting there being like, man, this guy knows a lot about this city.
Isn't that
And
amazing?
how do you get there?
Yes.
And so I think, again, like watching, and like similar to watching my older brothers play basketball, I'm watching him and being like, how do I get better than that guy? Because that guy seems pretty good.
Like a good bar, you know, to
Huge,
hit.
right?
Yes, yes.
And it's over time, but that's where a lot of my questions would come from. Would be like, how do you know all these things? And it's like, well, hundreds of sales and thousands of showings, but also like be curious. And like when you go in an inspection or to an inspection with a buyer, and an inspector says a word you've never heard of, or like a term that you can go home and Google it. And you can find out a lot of information. When I'm brand new, I heard the term knob and tube wiring.
Yeah.
Man, never heard that.
What is this knob and
what is
tube?
Yeah, and either you just forget about it, like a lot of realtors unfortunately do,
Right.
and they go to the next inspection and it's the exact same thing, and their buyer asks a question about it. They say, I'm not too sure. The inspector said this. Versus going home and spending a few hours going down rabbit holes on YouTube and Google of just learning as much as you can. What does it look like?
Yes.
Is it dangerous? Well, you know, how do you get insurance on it? Like all these different items. And then for the next home inspection or for the next buyer you meet that you are showing 1920s homes to,
Right.
you now can get ahead of this inspection and educate them that likelihood of having knob and tube wiring in a home that you're going to be buying because your budget's 1.3 in New Westminster and you're going to be looking at older homes is high. And these are all the things you need to know about knob and tube wiring.
Well, that establishes so much trust with the client, and it demonstrates your expertise as well. You know, and it's sometimes the devil's in the details with a lot of these things.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of clients that we work with that you know, once you demonstrate that trust and that expertise, they will like listen to you more. You know, listen to your advice a little bit more seriously, and so it works out really well. Yeah, more confidence. Yeah, totally.
It's so funny. After you go do so many inspections, how many can you actually like? How many inspections can you do now for your clients?
So this is a thing
it's a thing, right? Because like what you're saying is like sometimes I know how I feel. I'm like, I'm gonna get ahead of this guy because he's not moving fast enough. Because when you know the client and the rhythm, sometimes you just want to not just say show them confidence, but how many times have you done it where you're like, I'm calling the shots here in the inspection?
So I don't even wait till the inspection.
Right?
Do it during the showings.
Yes.
As you're walking into a property, this is the advantage of being almost 10 years into the business now and like 1,000 sales and I don't know how many showings, but how many homes you've walked through. But the advantage is now you've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of inspections. You've had this natural curiosity that you're pushing yourself as a new realtor to learn and as much information as you can and going home and Googling all these things. This is just like, this is a decade of knowledge now.
Right.
This is me doing a couple big renovations on homes myself and understanding construction costs and all those things. But I feel like that is the biggest value add that I think I've acquired in the decade of selling real estate that most realtors don't have. Most realtors don't or have never had the opportunity to do a big renovation, but most don't have the curiosity to push themselves to learn about construction.
Sure.
It's easy to write a contract and fill in the blanks and you learn negotiating things as you move forward in your career. But construction knowledge needs to be acquired through either practice of doing renos
right,
or being really curious about researching on your own.
Yeah.
And so now walking into a home, you're saying, hey, that roof is an asphalt shingle roof. It lasts about 25 years. It looks like it's about 20 years old. You're going to have to replace that in a few years. And that's going to cost you $12,000 to $15,000.
Yeah.
Right.
The windows are all single pane. They're fine. You can leave them like that. They're inefficient. Your heating bills are going to be higher. If you want to replace all the windows, $40,000. You know, like then you have all these things in your head and you're educating them on what the inspection is going to show.
Mm-hmm.
They've never done drain tile. The inspector's probably going to find a clog somewhere. If you want to redo all the drain tile, you got to dig a big trench. If you want to do that yourself, you save some labor costs. But if you wanted somebody to just do it for you, $35,000. You know,
more value to your clients, right? And especially when you're writing the offer, let's just say it's not a competitive market, you're able to negotiate it even more, right?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So being a little bit more curious with that, which is great.
I don't have any stats on this, but I will guarantee that our team has less collapse deals because of inspections than the majority of the industry. Because as you're walking through a home, the client knows what maintenance items are going to come up in an inspection. The majority of them. Obviously, there's things behind the walls like water ingress and showers and stuff like that we can't see, or we don't climb up in attics during a showing and look for pests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or insulation, and we can't obviously test for asbestos and stuff like that. But the majority of it, and even before showings, you can email the fire department and check if there's oil tank history and like stuff like that. There's so much due diligence and so much knowledge that you can share with a consumer as you're going through a showing that will prep them for the shock of an inspection item.
Be curious.
Yeah. What would be some of the most common things that you see that sellers like kind of let degrade, would you say?
Retaining walls.
Retaining walls?
Yeah. That's one.
Right.
Drainage. Often, drainage is a thing that no one asks questions about, maintains, unless there's water coming into the basement.
Right.
Oil tanks. Like there's a lot of homes in New West and Vancouver that have oil tanks that the sellers have no clue that there's an oil tank.
Yeah.
It's just because they weren't really a big topic in real estate until the last 20 years, maybe.
You guys seem to be really like dominant in the New West market. How much like percentage wise are you doing in New West compared to Vancouver?
It's funny that it changes every year, and you just kind of like evolve as the team and the clientele evolve. But say when I started 9 years ago, maybe for the first 3 or 4 years, it was 50% or more.
Yeah.
New West alone.
Right.
And now it's probably down to about 30.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that's
So
your
interesting.
market farm, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we spend the most time and energy, like traditional marketing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It feels like that's where most people like are like, that's the team. I had a client, this is a funny story. I had a client and I obviously my farm's kind of in Vancouver. And one of my clients is like, yeah, I just like watched their Instagram account and I watched their Facebook account. And then they would send me like links from you guys. This is before you guys were at Oakwyn. I was like, oh God, these guys. But then I was so happy because I knew you guys were great to deal with. And we were just trying to get ahead of the market, right? Tell me when like your marketing is something that I think a lot of people watch.
Yeah. What is your marketing strategy?
Tell us a little bit about it and tell us about how it has evolved over time as a team.
Social media changes every year. It seems like the way to get views adjusts over time as more people are using it. When we really started going hard into Facebook and Instagram, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, you could post a photo of like a cool character home in New West, just one single photo, and hit post, and it would get 40 or 50,000 views.
Wow.
Wild, right? You do that same thing today, you're going to get like 60.
Yeah, 60.
Then maybe 2 years after that, there was so many realtors and so many people posting that just the traffic was bigger and the views were less. So it evolved into us doing video, and I was a pretty shy kid. Being in front of a camera is not a comfortable thing for me. And 6 years later of doing this every single day, and I was thinking about it on the way over here, and you said hours in front of a microphone. And I think I've done just over 400 podcasts.
Wow.
In like the last 5 years. But go listen to the first few. They're
I'm
not
going
this confident and fluid. I'll tell you that.
Right. So
Hello.
So what does that marketing ecosystem look like for the G&D team?
Now it's just on autopilot, right? Because there's so much trial and error over the last like 6 or 7 years, and then like that a couple posts of a home that very few realtors were even marketing on
Right.
social media
Yeah.
7 years ago. A post of an exterior that got 40,000 views turned into like a walkthrough video, turned into an introduction to show a little bit of personality.
Mhm.
And seems like, I mean, this is like four years ago. Engagement on a post that had your face in it versus just a home got way more engagement
Okay.
with a person in it, with
Right.
some sort of personality, with a face.
Sure.
And at the same time, that's what's building your brand,
Right.
Mhm.
your face, your personality. That's what people are connecting to. They're not connecting to, a nice roof of a drone shot or,
Right.
whatever that is. And then now in the last year and a half, it has evolved into Instagram Reels.
Mhm.
Like
And-
it's so like comedic, a lot of your stuff too, right? I mean, maybe I just think it's comedic, but I think it's like you guys just have funny banter almost.
Yeah.
Is that right? Like, do you feel like you guys push that, or is
You
it
have a
just
good chemistry.
natural?
I-
Yeah.
I think we're just comfortable now in front of a camera.
Right.
A lot of, it's awesome to see our industry evolve. And now, if you are a listing agent and you are not putting video on social media, you're way behind. You're years
Mhm.
behind.
Mhm.
Right.
But I guess the comfort in front of camera now is just it makes it easy. It's rare that we're doing an introduction to a property, or even if there's 2 or 3 of us involved in a video, that it takes more than like 1 to 3 takes.
No,
Mhm.
are you guys doing this for everyone that's kind of thinking of doing this? They're just getting into the industry. Have you hired a group to do it for you? Do you find that that's the best success just in general? Or are you guys like taking your Apple phone out and going for it?
It's always the equation of time versus money.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So when you're new in the industry, I think spending the extra dollars for having someone editing reels for you, putting in logos and all that stuff is probably best spent on your own
Mm-hmm.
rather than spending a couple $100 a video, because one Instagram reel is not free for us, right? They cost. Look at our podcast clips from each podcast episode that we do. Each podcast is probably costing us $500 or $600
Mhm.
with Carl's time. Or Carl is our podcast producer. Carl's time, him editing videos, posting them to YouTube and podcast platforms, and then we have a girl named Kylie who's one of our photographers, who's the reel specialist, and so she does like podcast clips and
Mhm.
so these things add up. If you are new in the business and don't have a ton of financial means to
Right.
pay for all this marketing, you can do it all yourself. There's so many apps out there that are free or very inexpensive that can put all these things together. Versus like later in your career, now time is more important to me than
Mm-hmm.
a couple $100 on an Instagram reel. And so it just kind of evolves into like getting someone that you can build a really consistent theme with, and that can just do it all for you very time efficient.
Time
So
efficient.
are you posting on on a daily basis, a weekly basis?
Try to. It goes through waves, right?
Right.
Instagram,
So is it mostly on Instagram? Like, is that where you find you get most? And I have lots of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook are the 2 biggest that we use. I'd say
Instagram and Facebook are
yeah.
the biggest that you use. Yeah.
Instagram for me is the most natural feeling.
Okay.
I feel like I'm myself on there. I feel the most comfortable with that platform. It goes through waves throughout the year though. Like running social media platforms and accounts can be exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It can be. And I find myself naturally taking time off in slower periods.
Sure.
So like from now till August, you might see me post once a week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll share stories and stuff like that, but permanent posts once a week just to kind of keep it going. And when things happen that I feel are worth sharing,
Mhm.
but I'm not going out of my way to like spend time each day to be on social media, just
Right.
because it's like a natural mental break from our industry where it slows down a bit in the summer versus like in the spring, it'll be like every day, multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're a bit more so it's
Season.
seasonal. It's a bit
Yeah.
organic from that perspective. So have you ever calculated your return on investment for your social media?
Such a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So it's early in my career, I'd say we got invited to listing appointments or got asked to come do listing appointments through like a couple channels. It was
Mhm.
either like referral or it was like we get your marketing in the mail.
Right.
And it was always like us trying to sell ourselves to get a listing. And
Right.
that person was meeting with multiple different realtors and,
Yeah.
and whatever.
Interview.
Versus the last 4 or 5 years, it seems like when we try, but it's difficult to track, but we try to ask every new client that we've never had a relationship with in the past, where did you hear about us? And when they're mentioning 4 or 5 things, which one do you check out?
Right.
They're saying, well, we've been watching on social media for the last like 4 years. Our friend used you down the street. We get your mail in the marketing or marketing the mail. And we saw that you sold a condo in our building or a house in our neighborhood or whatever. So it's happening more and more and more where people are not interviewing other realtors. They're calling us because they've been watching us on social for so long and they understand that we're
there,
active in their neighborhood or whatever that may be. Social media is such a, if you are a realtor and you are not aggressively using social to grow a brand, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because the coolest thing is I call it my like 24/7 online resume. People feel like they know me even though I've never met them. They know my personality. They know how I speak. They know, like what I know about real estate because they listen to the podcast or see clips on social.
Right.
They know that we sell a lot of real estate and they feel like they know you. When you walk in the door, they're like, oh, hey, Denny.
Yeah.
It's not like my name's Joe. They feel like they're friends with you. So that is for me the power of social, but it's so difficult to track like exactly where a lead comes from.
Right. So you still do, you mentioned you still do paper marketing too.
I hate it. I hate it. But yes, we do it because James likes it.
Right. It's hard to let go.
I'm the same way. I still do it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to let go.
We're almost in like kind of 2 separate generations of agents because James and Morgan and I are all like early 2000s, like 2005, 2006, 2007 starting. And you started in 2014. Yeah. So like about 10 years later. So yeah.
But at the
things
same time,
have changed so much in 10 years.
You have to do both. I think it's like anything,
Well, I think
just
if
like
you,
Oakwyn.
I think if you had a choice, but let's say you had a choice. Let's say like you're a new agent getting started. I probably would only do social. I wouldn't, because paper marketing is very costly, right?
Very expensive.
I think the biggest thing is people like Denny, you totally hit it. It's exhausting for a lot of people and you have to have stamina.
Yeah.
Take it like social media is a lot to do. And it's like doing it consistently is one of the most difficult things to do. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it one way and it's all the time, all the time. And it's really hard to commit to that. But with traditional marketing, you can just kind of bang it out. You know what I mean? Like when a sale happens, you're like, oh, easy, boom. But I think you're right. It's like the confidence and you being present and always there is something that is really like my client. They're like, oh yeah, they do so much around this park. I don't even remember what the park's name is.
Queen's Park.
I know what
we bought that house.
Whenever I'm like in those areas, like, oh, a couple of my friends work here a lot. Like, you should probably list with them.
Now you can say associates though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, associates.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm interested because I think I actually asked my team, I was like, I'm meeting with Denny today. And they all said,
thank you for being so transparent.
Thank you for being so transparent. Yeah, one of the questions they brought to me is, you guys have something really unique. You guys have your own personalities as a team, as a team structure.
Sure.
And then you have a team together, right? And it's really you two. It's J and like D, right? What made you guys not just do, there's sometimes just the all or nothing strategy, but you guys have actually let all of you have personalities and then kind of a umbrella to keep you guys together. Was there any strategic point there, or was it just you felt that was the easiest? Structure.
When we started bringing on other realtors, I think 2016 was kind of like our big breakout year. 2017 was nuts, and that was just the 2 of us. 2018, we started bringing on people. And when we did, we met with maybe 10 like team leaders in Greater Vancouver who were selling a lot of real estate. And after each of those meetings, Jamie and I would just have a quick chat in the parking lot and we'd always feel uncomfortable. Be like, man, that doesn't really feel like us. That doesn't feel like our personality. Their business plan feels a little bit ruthless, to be honest. Doesn't really feel like there's an equal transmission of value here for the realtors that are on their team and us as the partners. Yeah. I mean, some, yes, definitely.
Right.
So we just kind of winged it.
Okay. Oh, you love that.
Right?
Experimented.
Totally. Like,
we just winged it.
Totally. We're like, well, we're planning to bring on one person this year. Let's go with this kind of structure. This is how we'd like it to work. And we'll reassess in 6 months and see how it's going. And it's our model has changed a couple times in the. We officially became partners in 2018, so now we're 5.5 years in. It's changed a couple times, and I think it's an ever evolving door as realtors on our team are generating more business on their own versus at the 2018, 19, 20 maybe a lot of the business was generated by GD that was kind of like worked on together or whatever that may be. So it evolves, and I think it'll continue to evolve. But we have always had the goal of not wanting to suffocate people.
Love it.
We don't. I'll speak for myself personally, but I have no interest in being a celebrity. I think naturally running a business, you need to have a personality and have a face that people recognize. But there's people out of Ontario and out of the States that are YouTube celebrities now that have 150,000 followers on Instagram because of the creativity and time and I guess comedic representation that they put out through Instagram. And that's not really my personality, and I don't need to be a YouTube celebrity. I just want to be a guy that knows a crazy amount about real estate and can help people acquire wealth through real estate.